podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day, or ITV Hub, or all four, will you get that message that says this content is not available in your location? A Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services, while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Monday. It is the 2nd of September, and the weather is minging. It's the only way to describe it. We had 10 Premier League games at the weekend, so let's delve into them. Starting with the early kickoff, Arsenal 1, Brighton 1 at the Emirates. Kai Havertz puts Arsenal 1-0 up on 38 minutes. Atrocious defending by Lewis Dunk. Saka feeds Havertz. Verbruggen comes too far off his line and Havertz lobs him with ease. Really good goal for Arsenal, but all beginning with really, really weak defending from Lewis Dunk. On 49 minutes, Declan Rice was sent off. Now, a lot of controversy over this, but it was the right decision. He had been booked. He conceded a free kick. He kicked the ball away and stopped the free kick being taken. That is an automatic yellow card. Therefore, that is 2 yellow cards and off he goes. And Arsenal fans can moan all they want. The rules are the rules. They're not going to be changed for Declan Rice. That's the simple fact of it. They're not going to be changed for Declan Rice. Was he booted by Veltman? Yes, he was. Why? Because Veltman was already in his swing to kick the ball when Rice kicked it away. Declan Rice deserved to be sent off through his own stupidity. So if you want to blame anybody for what happened after that, blame Declan Rice, not the official. João Pedro would equalise 9 minutes later. Ball played through by Dunk, good pass, finds Minta breaking in. Saliba is the closest defender. Gabriel is coming across to try and cover. Saliba decides to run away and veers off to one side. Gabriel is never getting to the ball ahead of Minta, who's much quicker than him. And once Minta gets his first touch, he's going to shift the ball to his left because he's left-footed. If Saliba just carries on the initial line he had taken, he probably gets a tackle in. But because he runs away, Gabriel can't get to him. Minta gets the shot off. Raya saves it, parries it centrally. João Pedro follows up and finishes well. Arsenal had some other chances in the game, but, Brighton just dominated. 65% of the ball, 22 shots to Arsenal's 11. Only 4 on target. That's where they'll be disappointed. At times, there was shots taken when better passes were on. You could have found easier opportunities to get shots away. They didn't. They'll probably rue it a little bit, but ultimately coming away from the Emirates with a point is a great result for Brighton. Into the 3 p.m. kickoffs then, Nottingham Forest 1, Wolves 1. Chris Wood on 10 minutes puts Forest ahead. Bellegarde on 12 minutes makes it 1-1. It actually was a pretty decent game. Gibbs White's passing ability and his vision is just on a different class. But overall, this was a pretty good game. And I think Forest will be a little bit disappointed to only take a point, because I think they look at Wolves as one of the clubs that will be in that cluster trying to battle against relegation. I do think Wolves will be very happy with the point, though, on their travels. Moving on then. Leicester 1, Aston Villa 2. Lovely work from from Villa on a free kick to create the first goal, which Amadou Onana finishes from short distance. Then John Duran, who'd only just come on, finishes the second. Really good goal. Buonanotte makes it 2-1 from a short distance, close distance even, and it's 2-1. And then Leicester, I thought they were going to nab the equaliser, but it wasn't to be. It's been a tough start for them. It really has. I do really like Steve Clarke. I'm just not sure they've given him enough of a chance with this squad. I don't think they've done enough in the summer transfer window. They will have January. I think they're going to need to look to add at least one up front and at least one at centre-back, because Wout-Faes can't play in this league. Ipswich 1, Fulham 1. Ipswich will be disappointed with this one. They go 1-up through Liam Delap. It's a really good goal on 15 minutes, but then they gifted Fulham an equaliser with just poor defensive work. It's a nice move from Fulham. They shift it left to right, then back to left. Smith Rowe finds Iwobi. Iwobi lays it on for Robinson on the overlap. He gets a cross in, but it goes through too many bodies. Onana's pretty much unmarked, and he finishes well, to his credit. We saw some good stuff from Ipswich in this game, but we also saw that they're missing one more in attack, one more goal scorer, one more kind of more of a poacher type finish. If they had been in a position to get someone like Nketiah, he would have made a difference in how they play. But I do like Delap. I like Smodics. I like Hutchinson. I really like Jack Clarke, who didn't start this one. Ogbonna started. I assume Clarke will start in future. Phillips will make a big difference in midfield. Thought he was good in that game. You could tell he was a little bit rusty. I think when they get Cahoust in and they can sit Phillips in midfield as like the 6 and let Cahoust go box to box as a destroyer, as a carrier, that kind of thing, that'll make a big difference for them. So that will help. They've also got an improvement they can make defensively by bringing in Dara O'Shea, who's just a better centre-back than Wolfenden. I'd like to see Ben Johnson playing right-back. I think as a right-back, he's better than Twinzaby, who's more of a centre-back by nature. But all things considered, it gets them up and running. It gets Ipswich a point. It gets them off the mark. They'll be happy enough. And for Fulham, they're going to be happy with a point away. Simple as that. They'll be happy with a point away from home. Brentford 3, Southampton 1. Brentford didn't have to do much in this game because Southampton just seemed like they were hell-bent on self-destruction. Mbomo scores on 43. He scores again on 65. And then Johan Wissa on 69, a fairly nightmarish debut for Aaron Ramsdale, not individually at fault for the goals, but just to concede 3. Sugawara scored a really good goal in the 95th minute to pull one back for Southampton, who, I mean, you can admire the fact that they're trying to play football, that they're trying to, carry on what got them up, but you've got to be a little bit more pragmatic here. Bednarak had a shocker. I didn't think Harwood Bellis played well. Stevens was awful. The midfield didn't work. It wasn't good enough up against that Brentford midfield, who were just too physical and too well drilled for them. Like Damsgaard just creating turnovers in the final third led to 2 goals. I think Matthias Fernandes will come into that Southampton team fairly soon, and they've got to get Ogachukwu into the team. They've got to have some power, some ball winning, some aggression, and he's the only one they've got that can do that. A very comfortable afternoon for Brentford, who are going to be absolutely delighted with their start to the season. 6 points, given they've had Liverpool, Palace, who came into the season obviously as the best team in the world based on the end of last season. They would have expected, I think, to beat Southampton, but I think if you'd said to them before the season, we'll give you 4 points for those first 3 games, you don't have to play them, I bet they'd have taken 4 points. Especially if you told them Ivan Toney wouldn't play, I bet they'd have taken 4 points. So to have 6 is a great start for them. Moving on to the funniest game of the weekend. Everton 2, Bournemouth 3. Michael Keane puts Everton 1 up on 50. Dominic Calvert-Lewin makes it 2 on 57, finishing off a nice move. It looks like Everton are going to absolutely trounce Bournemouth. Remember they beat them there last year, beat them well. It looked like it was going to be 3 or 4 or even 5. Everton were just all over them. Semenyo gets one back on 87. Okay, consolation, fair enough. Lewis Cook equalises on 92, gets pretty much a free header. Lewis Cook, by the way, is 5'9", and he's getting a free header in the Everton box in the 92nd minute of a game that they need to win. And then on 96, Sinisterra, Kluivert's cross to the back post. Nobody in sight other than Sinisterra, who finishes past Pickford. And Bournemouth win 3-2 at Goodison Park. And as you can imagine, Everton fans broke out all the classic Everton songs. Boo! You're shite. Fuck off, you earn 80 grand a week. And all the other classics that are just real homely and, you know, the type you want to listen to with your family. What a mad bunch. It's a good thing Everton held on to Branthwaite, because if he'd been sold on the Friday, which allegedly was a lot closer than people know, if he'd been sold on the Friday and this had happened on the Saturday, Goodison Park would be a smouldering pile of ash right now, without question. So that's 3 defeats from 3 for Everton to begin this Premier League season. In the late Saturday kickoff, Manchester City 3, West Ham United 1. Haaland scores on 10 minutes. Ruben Diaz puts through his own net, deflecting a Jared Bowen cross on 19 to make it 1-1. Haaland makes it 2-1 on 30, and then Haaland wraps it up on 83, his second hat-trick in as many weeks. And yeah, a very comfortable win for City, really. West Ham caused them some problems. They had a tough time dealing with Kudus. He hit the bar as well. But they couldn't get Bowen into the type of space that he'd had the week before, and he wasn't as effective. He did have the assist on the own goal, but that was really it from him. Thought City defended very well in terms of stopping West Ham and their threat. On Sunday then, Chelsea won, Crystal Palace won. Nicholas Jackson put Chelsea 1 up, but a glorious goal from Eberechi Eze on 53 made it 1-1. Dean Henderson made some great saves in this game, and a late stop, I think it was from Jackson in a one-on-one, secured the point for Palace, which is much needed after a poor start to the season. The other 1:30 game then was Newcastle 2, Tottenham 1. Lovely finish from Harvey Barnes on 37 minutes, puts Newcastle 1-0 up. A Dan Burn own goal after some questionable goalkeeping by Nick Pope makes it 1-1, but then Alexander Isak does what Alexander Isak does and wins the game for the Toon in the 78th minute. It's just a typical Newcastle game. Spurs had all the ball, all the shots, all the chances, and Newcastle lived to counter-attack. They played Gordon on the right, Barnes on the left. Barnes was excellent, Gordon not so much. But at least his pace caused Spurs some trouble. Isak was just, as always, really, really good. Final game then. Manchester United 0, Liverpool 3. Luis Diaz on 35 minutes from a Mo Salah cross. Luis Diaz on 42 minutes from a Mo Salah pass. And then Mo Salah on 56 minutes from a Dominic Szoboszlai pass. United had 53% of the ball. They had as many shots on target as Liverpool. Onana therefore made no saves in the game. And the XG was actually in favour of United, but 3-0 flattered United. That could easily have been 6-1, 6-2, 5-1. You know, there was a big gap between the teams on the day. Liverpool really played for 65 minutes and then just went into management mode. Salah missed a great chance. Szoboszlai fluffed his lines on a great chance. Jota made a big mess of a big chance. It was far too easy for Liverpool. They dominated in midfield. They changed the midfield orientation. McAllister as the 6, Gravenberch as an 8, Szoboszlai as an 8/10, and just played up against United and smothered them and took the ball off them high up the pitch. Played through them very, very easily. Casemiro had a nightmare, gave the ball straight to Gravenberch, who fed Salah, who crossed for the first goal. Got the ball taken off him by Diaz and then fell over for the second goal. It was just atrocious, and he got hauled off at half-time. Matthijs de Ligt made his debut, and not many people know this, but if you actually put Matthijs de Ligt into Google Translate, Dutch to English, it comes out as Michael Keane, because that's who he resembled. A lot of blood and thunder, no composure, not much positional sense, and was taken off and replaced by Harry Maguire. He was lucky not to have been sent off after a fairly shocking challenge on Luis Diaz. Casemiro also lucky not to see red after kicking Alexis McAllister in his gentleman's region. And the VAR deemed that one a natural follow-through, which is utter nonsense. All things considered, Liverpool fully deserving of their win, and we have a Premier League table with Manchester City top on 9 points, goal difference of +7. Liverpool second on 9 points, goal difference of +7. City top as a result of having scored 9 to Liverpool's 7. Liverpool are the only team not to concede a goal through the first 3 games. Then we get Brighton, Arsenal and Newcastle all on 7 points. Brentford and Aston Villa on 6. Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, they have 5. That's a great start for Forest. 5 points after 3 games. Bournemouth will be very happy with their start as well. Spurs have 4 points, Chelsea have 4 points, and Fulham have 4 points. West Ham and Manchester United have 3 points each. Leicester, Crystal Palace, Ipswich and Wolves have 1 point each. And then you've got Southampton on no points and Everton on no points. Everton with a goal difference of -8, which is the worst in the league. A goals conceded tally of 10, which is the most in the league, despite Wolves having shipped 6 in one game. But Everton don't, to their credit, have the worst attack in the league. That is Southampton, who have managed 1 solitary goal. And that was that late goal against Brentford. If you told me the bottom 3, as things stand, were going down, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Wolves look a bit hapless. Southampton look hopeless. And Everton look like they've given up. They genuinely do. Even when they went 2-0 ahead and then they were all over them, they still don't look like a team with any real self-belief. And to concede 3 goals in 9 minutes for a Sean Dyche team, that's very, very unusual. That's after getting a hammering away to Spurs, after getting a slapping at home to Brighton. Dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And Everton also play by far the worst brand of football in the league. Like, if you look up and down the league, City can be a bit dull, but they play a good brand of football. Liverpool play a good brand of football. Brighton play a good brand of football. Arsenal can be dull, but they play a good brand of football. Newcastle can be dynamite on the counter-attack, so they can be very exciting to watch. Brentford, you can admire how they go about their business. It's not a horrible style of football to watch. It's not always the most pleasing, but again, like with the Toon, on the counter, they can just be really good to watch. Villa play a good brand of football. So do Bournemouth. So do Forest, primarily because of Gibbs White, Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. Spurs play good football. Chelsea try to play good football. We'll give them that. Fulham aren't great to watch. They're not great to watch, but they're still effective. West Ham have some really exciting players. United have some really exciting players. Again, as with Newcastle, they're most exciting on the counter, and they'd probably be better off leaning into that approach as opposed to whatever it is they're trying to do at the moment. Steve Cooper doesn't play great football. We'll give him some credit for what he's done, but he doesn't play a great brand of football. Palace play good football. Ipswich play good football. I'm not sure what Gary O'Neill actually does, but it's not great to watch. Saints, it's naive, it's stupid, but at least they're trying to play an adventurous style. Everton, though, I mean, they're not good, and the football's horrendous. You know, you can play bad football if you're still good. Like if you're still winning games and drawing games and whatever, but you can't play bad football and be that atrocious. You just can't. It's unacceptable. So that's where we stand after 3 games. I'll be back after the break. We're going to go and have a look at the transfer window now that it's over. We will go team by team over the next week and either praise them or admonish them. See you after the break. Right, welcome back. So we're going to go team by team through all 20 teams in the Premier League and look at their transfer windows. So we're going to do 4 teams a day for the next 5 days. And then next week, I thought we'd take a look around Europe when all the European transfer windows are also closed. And we'll cast judgment on them. So we could do Serie A Monday, La Liga Tuesday. We won't do every team, but the big teams. Bundesliga Wednesday maybe, and I suppose the French League on Thursday. And then Friday, because games are back next weekend, we're back to normal. But yeah, so let's jump in. Let's start. Always go alphabetically, so we'll go alphabetically. We'll take a look first and foremost at Arsenal Football Club. So we're going to look at as much as we can here. With the Gunners, they gave Karl Hein a new contract and then sent him out on loan. They also gave new contracts to a whole bunch of academy players that we're probably never going to see play for the first team. They released Cedric Soares. They released Mo Elneny. They released Arthur Nkonkwo. No real loss in Soares. Elneny, from a leadership and dressing room point of view, I think was quite important there, but you know, we'll see how they do. Nkonkwo is a talented goalkeeper, but he didn't fit how Arteta wanted his goalkeepers to play, and he's gotten himself a good move to Wrexham. They also, again, released or lost a whole bunch of academy players. One notable name who's left, and it's only notable because he was very, very highly regarded when he was a younger player, is Tyrese John Jules, who is the nephew of Danny John Jules, who played Cat in the series Red Dwarf. So if you're a Red Dwarf fan, he's the nephew of Cat. Very, very talented player, but he's had a whole bunch of loans and none of them have really sparked the way it was expected. He looked absolutely brilliant at like 16, 17, 18, but he hasn't quite managed it at senior level. He's now 23 and he hasn't found a new club yet. Now, I do expect that he'll find a club in the lower leagues, and maybe League One. He might need to just suck it up and go to League Two for a year. But I do think he can have a decent career in the lower leagues and potentially maybe a little bit later with some experience and development. he could find himself in the Championship pushing for a move to the Premier League. Coming in, they made the David Raya deal permanent, so we knew that one was happening. They bring in Ricardo Calafiori. He's excellent. They got him for 42 million, including add-ons. He's a better option than the other options they have at left back, but it's not like the defence was a weak point for them. You're adding where you're already strong. It's not the worst course of action, but that's money that maybe could have been spent somewhere else. They bring in Mikel Moreno. Now, a lot of Arsenal fans seem to think he's going to come in and play as an 8. I think in how they play, he's going to play as the 6. I think that's the position that he makes the most sense for in how Arsenal play. They got him for a good price. He unfortunately got injured in his first training session, so it's going to take him some time to come back and then get back up to speed. They also signed Lucas Nygaard, who's a young goalkeeper coming from Denmark, and Tommy Setford, who is a young English goalkeeper that was in the Arsenal Academy. The Ajax Academy, and Arsenal have brought him in. He's born and raised, I think, in the Netherlands, but he is of English stock. His brother is Charlie Setford, who is also in the Ajax setup and currently, I think, the goalkeeper for the Ajax B team, or young Ajax. Going out on permanence, we had Emile Smith-Rowe, Aaron Ramsdale, and Eddie Nketiah. Now, they didn't get their price on either Nketiah or Ramsdale. They got decent enough prices, especially Nketiah, who's an academy graduate. They got a pretty good price on Smith-Rowe, given how little he's played. But they do take a significant loss on Ramsdale, and I would imagine they had to pay him to go as well, because there's no way Southampton have matched his wages. They sold Charlie Patino for £1 million, which is very disappointing given how highly regarded he was. Mika Bayard goes to Sturm Graz for $4 million, which is a decent price for an academy player that probably didn't have a future there. And Brooke Norton-Cuffy goes to Genoa. Again, it's a pretty low price, but again, he didn't have a future at Arsenal, but talented right back nonetheless. They bring in Neto on loan. I'm not a fan. I think even on Ramsdale, that's a significant downgrade. And they bring in Raheem Sterling, who has now had 2 years at Chelsea, following a 7-year stay at Man City. And it's 2 years of significant underperformance from Raheem at Chelsea based on what we know he's capable of. Arteta is gambling on the fact that he worked with him at City and thinks he might be able to get the best back out of him. The Arsenal setup is similar enough in some ways to how City play. So maybe there's a chance there. I'll be curious to see if he's a starter. Could he potentially take Martinelli's place because Martinelli has not looked good this season? Possibly. But the days of Raheem being a 23 to 31 goal a season player, I think they're in the past. I'll be curious to see how much he has left in the tank. I know he's only 29, turns 30 in December. But you have to remember, Raheem Sterling has been playing for a long time. He made his debut in the 2011-2012 season. So Raheem has been about a long, long time. Made his debut March 24th, 2012, age 17 years and 107 days. He's now pushing 30. It's a lot of football in his legs. 559 games at club level. Add to that 82 caps for England. You're well past the 600 mark. It's a lot of games in the legs. Like, we think about players and just how much football have they in them. And for a player like Raheem that relies heavily on pace and speed, movement, explosiveness, like that can take its toll and wear him down. So we'll see. Overall, I think they sold okay in general. I love Calafiori. I like Moreno as a player. And Raya was good for them last year. They've addressed sort of a need in midfield with Moreno, if he's the 6. If he's not the 6, then I have questions. If Rice is the 6 and he's the 8, I don't like it as much. If he's the 6 and Rice is the 8, I quite like the balance. I think they could have used another right-footed centre-back, but when you look at it, they've got Saliba, who's going to start every game he's fit for, except the Cups. You've got Timber, Tomiyasu, and White, who can all slot in there. So they're probably fine in that regard. You've got Gabriel, Calafiori can play instead of him, can play left back, Kivor can play instead of Gabriel as well. So they're good in that regard. Zinchenko offers something different. So defensively, they're probably set. Midfield, the depth might be a bit of a worry. Like if Odegaard gets hurt, and now Fabio Vieira's gone on loan. Should have pointed that out. Fabio Vieira, Nuno Tavares, Sambi Lokonga, 3 signings in recent years that didn't work at all. Reece Nelson's gone on loan, and Marquinhos has gone on loan. They come out with a net spend of about 10.1 million. They also got a sell-on clause for Mark McGuinness. I think they received in and around the £2 million mark for him as part of the sell-on clause when they let him go to Cardiff. Looking forward to seeing how he does for Luton actually this year. So, not a big spend. I said it before the summer, they weren't going to be able to spend big because they didn't have the finances because of how much they'd spent in previous years. They were up against the wall with FFP. This still takes them over the £700 million spend under Arteta, which is an awful lot of money. I think the net spend is somewhere around 500 million. It's a lot of money without yet delivering major trophies. But overall, I think it's a solid window. They haven't lost anybody of real importance. Nketiah was behind Havertz and Jesus. And I think the manager would trust Trossard through the middle more as well. They get a depth attacker in Raheem that could potentially become a starter if he plays up to his level. So they've improved each area of the team. So I'll give them a solid B. Aston Villa, I really liked their window. Until recently, I don't like a couple of the loans. Now, we look at what's come in. Cameron Archer, Lewis Dobbin, Ian Matson, Omar Kedri, Samuel Illing Jr., Enzo Valencia, Ross Barkley, Jadon Philogene, Amadou Onana, and Yaimer Mosquera, who's a young centre-back from Colombia, 19 years of age. He's been loaned to Real Union, who play in, I want to say, the 3rd division? 4th division? 3rd division in Spain. So he's obviously a project. He's a long way away from being ready. They got rid of Morgan Sanson, Tim Irabunum, Omar Kellyman, Douglas Luiz, Sebastian Revan, Viljami Sinisalo, Moussa Diaby, Ben Christian, and then they sold Cameron Archer, who they just bought back. They didn't loan anybody in, but they loaned out Coutinho, Tommy O'Reilly, Philip Marshall, Louis Barry, Josh Feeney, Lewis Dobbin, Kane Kessler-Hayden, Lionel Sosa. These are younger players that don't really matter. Alex Moreno loaned out. Samuel Illing Jr. loaned out. I was hoping they'd keep him because I was looking forward to seeing what he could offer them for depth. Loaned out Den Donker after loaning out Baranchia. And given Boubacar Kamara is still out for a couple of months, I thought they would have kept one of them until January, just as depth, because at the moment you've only really got Onana. Now, I know Barkley could fill in, but he's not particularly good in that role. So I do think they might have just loaned out one or two too many. They also released, just for completeness, they released Callum Chambers and a bunch of young players. They did really well in terms of they didn't spend a ton of money in this window. Like, they bought expensive players, but the sales covered a lot of it. The sales of Douglas Luiz, Moussa Diaby, and Omari Kellyman covered an awful lot of the incoming. So, for example, Diaby covers Onana. Cameron Archer, they make a 2 million profit on him. Kellyman, they sold for 19 million. That covers Illing Jr. and Valencia. Now, I know they came in as part of the Douglas Luiz deal, but when we take the Douglas Luiz deal, it covers Ian Maatson and Ross Barkley. So you're only really looking at Philogene as a player that they've spent on and not had somebody go out the door to cover, because Lewis Dobbin cost them 10 million, but they sold Irabunum for 9, so it's only £1 million. They've done this window for in and around 18 million, which is really, really good. And I do think they've improved their squad. I think they've missed one significant need, though, which was a new centre-back. So I do think that's a big notch against them, is that they haven't addressed that problem in the middle of the defence. Now, look, Cons is really good, Torres is really good, but I would prefer Cons at a right back and not to be playing Matty Cash every week. And like I say, with Archer being sold, with Illing Jr. being loaned out, I think they might be a little bit light in attack. Just a little bit light. But they will be hoping that John Duran takes a big step forward this year. They will be hoping that Morgan Rogers takes a step forward this year, and he's already looking very good. They'll be hoping for more consistency from Leon Bailey. And the big one for them is Jacob Ramsey, who obviously had that brilliant season a couple of years ago and then had just an injury-ruined season last year. And if he gets back to his best, that's a 50, 60 million pound player. So all in all, I think they've upgraded well. I think Onana is one of the best signings anyone made this summer. He'll fill in as the 6 for now, but when they get Kamara back and they can go Kamara and Onana as a double pivot, everybody's in trouble. Everybody is in trouble. I think it's an A window for Villa. I'm going to go A- because, again, they didn't address the centre-back and potentially they've left themselves a little light in attack, but I see the logic for it with Rodgers and with Duran having potential to step up and have much bigger contributions than they did last year. Plus you bring in Philogene, who's very, very talented. Little concern about loaning out Baranchia for the first half of the season when you're a little bit light while Kamara still working his way back. But all things considered, I'll go A-. I'll go A- on Villa. I'll be back after the break and we will have a look at Bournemouth and Brentford. See you in a sec. Right, welcome back. So, we jump on to our next Premier League club, which is Bournemouth. And they made the Enes Unal deal permanent. They brought in Alex Paulson, a young goalkeeper, Daniel Jevison, a young striker from Sheffield United, Dean Huijsen, which is one of the signings of the summer. Julian Araujo is an interesting one. Very, very talented right back who went to Barcelona 18 months ago, never got any opportunity, had a decent season on loan with Las Palmas. And I think gives them a really good option there. They'll have, obviously, Max Aarons, but now they've got 2 good right backs, similar styles of play, and it gives them good depth. And then they bring in Evan Nielsen for huge money after selling Dominic Solanke. They obviously sold Gavin Kilkenny and Kiefer Moore as well. Coming in on loan, they've got Kepa. Going out on loan, Joe Rothwell, Romain Fevre, Hamid Traore, Jaden Anthony, Daniel Jevison. Paulson's gone back on loan just to get more experience. Neto's gone on loan, and Chris Meffam loaned out as well. I think they were hoping that would be a permanent deal. They lose Lloyd Kelly on a free. Ryan Fredericks, Emmy Marcondes, and Darren Randolph all released as well. We'll see if they land anywhere. I think Jamal Lowe went on a free as well. They didn't lose anybody other than Solanke that's going to make a big difference. Like, I know they lost Lloyd Kelly, but he'd been in and out through injury. He wasn't any better than Sinisi, for example. He wasn't as good at left back as Kirkes. So I don't think they've really lost anything there. Huijsen's a big upgrade for them. I love that centre-back pairing and what it can be, especially when you factor in Kirkes as well. I'm curious to see how Kepa does. Out of the spotlight, less pressure. There's a very talented goalkeeper there. Before he went to Chelsea, he looked like he was going to be absolutely top-notch. He doesn't seem to deal well with pressure. So maybe at Bournemouth, out of the spotlight, he kicks on and becomes... He's never going to be a great goalkeeper at this point, but he might become a very good goalkeeper for them. I think all in all, when you factor in, they got a really good replacement, in my opinion, for Solanke. They upgraded in defence with Huijsen and Araujo. They definitely won the Daniel Jebison deal. I know he's gone on loan for experience at Watford. I'm disappointed Hamid Traore's been sent out on loan. I was really hoping we'd get to see how he would look in that team. I think him behind Evan Nielsen would have been good. Clearly the manager doesn't fancy him. But all in all, they've definitely upgraded. I think they've done well despite losing their talisman. So I'll give them a B+. I think it's a decent window. And then Brentford. Now, going into the summer, it was clear they had to address right back. They needed help at centre back. I thought they should look at maybe goalkeeper, but didn't think they would, given Flecken. They'd addressed their long-term 9 need with Igor Thiago pre-window. They already had a good crop of forward players, outside of Tony, who we all expected them to lose. But you're looking at Sade and you're looking at Lewis Potter and thinking, well, if they take a step up this year with Mbomo and with Wissa, that's a pretty good group. So they bring in Benjamin Frederick, they bring in Igor Thiago. Then they go big on Fabio Carvalho. I think it's a little bit of an overpay, and I don't really know how he fits all that well into a Thomas Frank team unless he's going to change the shape and go to more of a 4-2-3-1, in which case Carvalho as a 10 could work really well with Mbomo one side and maybe Sade the other. Igor Thiago was the 9, and then you have Lewis Potter and Wissa as options off the bench who can fill in all of those positions. It's a little overpay, but I do like the stylistic fit with him and Igor Thiago if they go 4-2-3-1. They bring in Sepp Vandenberg, who's, I think, a very good centre-back, and I think does improve their centre-back group. They bring in Gustavo Nunes, who's another young winger from Brazil, can play across the front line. Very, very highly regarded. They've paid a decent sum from 10 million. And Jaden Mekhoma, who's another left back, and he's come in from Southampton, and he's very, very highly regarded. And saw a couple of Southampton fans quite upset that he was leaving. They've paid 5 million for him, which is a lot of money for an unproven player who's never played at senior level. I think he might have played some cup games last year, but he's never played a senior league game. But they don't address right back again. And that's a concern to me. They loaned out Onyeka, which I think makes sense because he just wasn't getting it done there. They sell Tony, they get a good fee for him considering he had a year left. They get the Raya money in. So all in all, they don't spend a ton. They come out, what is that, about 30 million of a net spend. It's pretty decent for what you got in. Like I say, you lose Tony, but he wasn't really there last year. He missed over half the season. Then when he did come back, he wasn't good. Strakosha going on a free makes them maybe a little bit vulnerable if anything happens to Flecken. But all in all, I think it's a decent window. I think they've improved in central defence. They've definitely improved in attack. Now, That's on last year, not on the year before when Tony was flying. But I still don't like they haven't addressed the right back situation. I really worry about that. I'll go B. Did I give Bournemouth a grade? I think I went, did I go B for them? I'll go B for Brentford as well. Yeah, I think B for Arsenal, A- for Villa, maybe a B+ for Bournemouth. Maybe B+ for Bournemouth. I think Huijsen's such a good buy at 12 million. We'll go B+. And then Brentford is a B. Yeah, Brentford is a B. And that's it. That's all I have for today. So tomorrow we will look at Brighton, Chelsea, Crystal Palace and Everton. There is an A in there. There's an A+ in there, actually. But there's also some which I'm not overly enthused by. We will be back later today with the two-footed extra, which is obviously our news and gossip bit. But that's it. I will see you then. Bye-bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.